Good morning, this is 4th grade ELA. Alright, this is the text deck 3, empathy. Why is it important to understand the feelings of others? Our goal for today is to recall important details about the problem and solution in the story. So we're going to be talking about the problem and definitely the solution. This book is a Symphony of Wales by Steve Scratch. What is a symphony? A symphony is a piece of music performed by many instruments. How could Wales make a symphony? This story is about a young girl named Glasgow who has a special gift. When she dreams, she hears the singing of a whale. The people in her village call Narna. The villagers have long trusted the spirit of Narna to help them. When a group of whales become trapped by ice near her home, Glasgow must trust Narna too. Let's see how Narna helps her. From the earliest time she could remember, Glasgow had heard music inside her head. During the long, dark winters, blizzards sometimes lasted for days. Then her family stayed indoors, close to the small fire. Glasgow heard the songs calling to her out of the darkness, beyond even the voice of the wind. The old ones of her village said, "This is the voice of Narna, the whale. Long has she been a friend to our people. She was a friend to our grandparents. She was a friend before we saw the boats of strange men from other lands, but it is long now since one of us has heard her. It is a great gift you have." And Glasgow would fall asleep, wrapped in a sealskin blanket, remembering their words. The sea gave life to Glasgow's village. The seals gave meat and warm furs to protect against the winter cold. In summer, the people caught salmon and other fish, then salted them to keep for the hard times to come. And from Narna, the whale, the people received food for themselves and their sled dogs, waterproof skins for their parkas and boots, and oil for their lamps in the long winter darkness. One morning, the snows came early. For 3 days, a blizzard bore down on the village. When it finally stopped, Glasgow's family needed supplies from the next village. Glasgow asked if she might help drive the sled dogs. It is not easy to drive the sled, her parents said. The dogs will know if you are uncertain of the way, but you will know the way home. Perhaps on the way back you may try. Now go to sleep. That night in her dreams, Glasgow drove the dog sled, but the dogs did not follow her commands. Instead, they led her to open water surrounded by ice. Glasgow heard the singing of Narna louder than she had ever heard it before. She awoke in the darkness of her sealskins, wondering what the dream had meant. The morning was clear and cold as the family set out. The dogs made good time to the neighboring village. Before starting back, Glasgow's parents packed the supplies into the sled. Glasgow checked the dogs' feet for cuts. She rubbed their ears and necks. Glasgow's parents gave her the reins. We'll follow behind you. If your heart and words are clear, the dogs will listen and take you where you wish to go. They set off across the ice. Snow swirled as the wind began to pick up. Suddenly the sled dogs broke from the trail, yelping and twitching their ears. "What is it?" Glasgow's parents shouted. "I think they hear something," Glasgow called back. So Glasgow is driving the dog sled home, but now the dogs have left the trail. This is just like Glasgow's dream. What else happened in the dream? I wonder if that will happen next. The sled dogs pulled harder. Their keen ears could pick up high-pitched notes that most humans couldn't hear, but Glasgow, if she turned just right, could make out the eerie moans and whistles that grew louder until even her parents could hear them. The dogs stopped short. They were right at the edge of a great bay of open water, surrounded on all sides by ice and snow. Everywhere Glasgow looked, the water seemed to be heaving and boiling, choked with white whales. Her father came up beside her. "Beluga whales," he said softly. Glasgow stared. There must be more than 1,000 of them. The cries of the whales rose and fell in the wind as they swam slowly about. The dogs whined and pawed anxiously at the ice. "Let's hurry to the village," cried Glasgow. "We'll get help." Glasgow's father, though, knew there was no help. "They must have been trapped when they came here last fall looking for food," he said quietly. "There's nothing we can do to free them. When the last of the water freezes over, the whales will die." And these are the whales. But Galaska's mother remembered that an icebreaker several winters ago had rescued a Russian freighter trapped in the sea ice. Could we call on the emergency radio? Maybe an icebreaker can clear a channel for the whales, she said. Galaska and her parents raced back to their village. They gathered everyone together and told them what had happened. Galaska's father got an emergency radio and put out a distress call. Beluga whales, maybe thousands of them trapped. We need an icebreaker. Can anyone hear me? Far out of the sea, a great Russian icebreaker named the Moskva picked up the faint signal. We read you, the captain radioed back. We're on our way, but it may take us several weeks to reach you. Can you keep the whales alive until then? So just as its name suggests, an icebreaker is a ship that breaks up sea ice to make a channel or open passage of water for other ships to safety sail. How might it help the whales? Some of the people from Galaska's village started setting up a base camp near the whales. Others set out by dog sled to alert the surrounding settlements. Everyone came, young and old, parents, grandparents, and children. Day after day they chipped back the edges of the ice, trying to make more room for the whales to come up to breathe. Look, said the Galaska's mother. See how the whales are taking turns, how they give the younger ones extra time for air. As Galaska took her time shipping back the ice, the song of Narna filled her ears again. She sang to the whales while she worked, trying to let them know help was on the way. Each day Galaska looked anxiously for a ship, but each day a little more water turned to ice. Each day the whales got weaker from hunger. Galaska knew how it felt to be hungry. The years before, her village had caught barely enough fish to make it through to spring. Sometimes the memories still gnawed at her. Even so, she gave the whales part of the fish from her lunch. The other villagers noticed and began to feed some of the fish in winter fish to the whales too. So the villagers have been on the ice for days. They are cold and hungry. The whales are getting weaker. What do you think the villagers will do? One morning, Galaska woke up to the sounds of excited voices and barking dogs. The icebreaker had broken through the main channel during the night. Hurry, Galaska, her parents called. Galaska pulled on her boots and parka and ran down to the path through the water. Everyone was gathered off to one side. The old ones, too, stood watching. They beckoned Galaska to join them. Now, they said, let us see what the whales would do. The whales crowded together in fear, keeping as far from the icebreaker as possible. On board the ship, the captain gave orders. He hoped the whales would see the pathway clearing through the ice and follow the ship to safety. The icebreaker slowly turned around and faced back out to the sea. But the whales wouldn't follow the ship. They may be afraid of the noise of our engines, the captain radioed to shore. I've heard that trapped whales will sometimes follow the singing of other whales. We'll try playing a recording of whale songs. Galaska felt a shiver down her back. Narna's song, she whispered to the sled dogs. They're going to play Narna's song. Then the songs of the whales echoed over the water, deep moans and high whistling calls, ancient sounds from another world. But the whales would not go near the ship. Again and again the captain inched the giant icebreaker closer to the whales, then back toward the sea. But the whales stayed as far away as they could. It's no use, the captain radioed in despair, and we can't stay beyond tomorrow. Already the channel is starting to refreeze. Galaska was near tears as she asked the old ones what could be done now. Wait, they said. Let us see what tomorrow brings. That night the song of Narna came to Galaska again, only this time it was different. She heard the music and voices of whales, but she heard other music too. Melodies she never heard before. While it was still dark, Galaska woke her parents. I've heard Narna again, she said, and I've heard other music too. You have to tell the old ones, Galaska parents said. In this dream, Galaska hears Narna's song, but other music too. Why do her parents say she must tell the old ones about her dream? The old ones of the village listened carefully as Galaska told them what she had heard. So it is other music Narna is asking for, they said thoughtfully. Long is the time, but once it is said, humans and whales made music together. Perhaps the time has come again. Let us speak with the captain. Quickly, Galaska and the old ones radioed the ship. Have you any other music, people music, to play for the whales? They asked. The captain said he would see what his crew could find. First, they tried playing rock and roll. The electric guitars and drums boomed, but the whales would not follow the ship. Next, the crew tried Russian folk music. It was softer, with many voices singing together. The whales swam a little closer, but still they would not follow the ship. On shore, Galaska ran back to the radio transmitter. She had talked with the captain. I know there's other music that will work. Please keep trying, she told him. The crew found some classical music. First, the sweet sounds of violins and violas. Next, the deeper notes of the cellos, and deepest of all, the string basses. And way up high, a solo violin. Everyone fell silent as the melody carried over the water. The whales grew quiet, too, listening. A few whales started to sing back to the ship and to each other. Gradually, more whales joined. Then they began to swim toward the ship. Cautiously, the captain started the huge engines and headed slowly out to the sea. One whale followed, then another, then a few more. Soon all the whales were following the ship through the narrow channel, past the broken chunks of ice, back to the safety of the open sea. On shore, people laughed and cried and hugged each other. The sled dogs jumped up and barked, trying to lick the noses and faces of anyone they could reach. Galaska buried her wet face in the fur of the dogs' necks. Such good dogs. She told them over and over, such good dogs. Now the whales are going home. On board the ship, the captain and his crew raised every flag. The music played as the captain radioed to say the whales were safe. He said he and his crew were finally going home, too. So everyone on shore and on the boat is celebrating. Even the dogs are getting in on the excitement. Why do you think Galaska spends so much time telling the dogs that they've been good? Galaska and her family looked out to sea. They waved to the iceberg and the disappearing whales. And do you hear Narna singing now? Her grandmother asked. Yes, Galaska said. But it isn't just Narna I hear now. It's something bigger than that. Something like a whole symphony of whales. So let's talk about the way the writer ends the story. What do you notice about the last 3 words? What are you thinking? These are the historical notes. So what was the problem and the solution in this story?